Forget the modern kitchen with its specialized pans and digital timers. To understand the medieval woman, you must first understand the iron cauldron that never grew cold. It was the center of the household's thermal and nutritional universe. Every scrap of food, every drop of water, and every hour of labor was funneled into this one pot. You are about to enter a world where the meal was a continuous cycle of survival, not a singular event. The medieval woman began her day by auditing the embers of the central fire. In 1350, the hearth was the only mechanical source of heat in the longhouse. She understood that a cold fire meant a dead kitchen. She regulated the oxygen flow to the buried coals, bringing the flames back to life with a manual precision that modern technology has replaced. The cauldron was her primary tool. The housewife monitored the temperature of the iron vessel with a clinical eye. She regulated the height of the pot using a trammel hook, moving it closer to or further from the flames as the day progressed. She understood that boiling was a luxury of fuel, while simmering was the standard of efficiency. She managed the thermal budget of the entire family within that single pot. Every morning, the woman supervised the addition of fresh water to the vessel. She regulated the clarity of the liquid, knowing that it had to sustain the family through multiple meals. She understood that the water served as a thermal battery, retaining the heat of the fire even when the flames were low. She managed the inventory of fluids with a focus on preventing the pot from boiling dry. The iron cauldron itself was a masterpiece of medieval engineering. The woman regulated its maintenance, ensuring that the heavy metal was free from cracks and soot buildup. She understood that the thickness of the iron dictated the evenness of the heat distribution. She managed the weight of the pot, often requiring significant physical strength to maneuver it over the central fire. Mothers regulated the addition of the first ingredients, coarse grains like barley or oats. They understood that these starches required a long period of hydration to become digestible. They managed the thickening of the base, creating a porridge-like consistency that served as the foundation for the day's pottage. This was a technical necessity for the medieval stomach. The female authority monitored the scents emerging from the pot. She regulated the balance of seasonal herbs, adding wild leeks or dried sage to improve the olfactory profile. She understood that flavor was a psychological tool used to boost the morale of the hungry youth. She managed the complexity of the broth, turning simple grains into a sensory experience for her family. Managing the smoke barrier was a constant task for the medieval cook. She regulated her own movements to stay below the layer of soot that hung near the rafters. She understood that the smoke was a preservative for the meat hanging above, but a danger to her lungs. She managed the ventilation of the room, balancing the exit of smoke with the retention of precious heat. The woman supervised the rotation of the pot's contents. She regulated the stirring with a heavy wooden ladle, ensuring that nothing burned at the bottom of the iron vessel. She understood that a burnt base would ruin the flavor of the perpetual meal. She managed the physical labor of the stir, realizing that the cauldron was a living system that required constant attention. As the morning progressed, the woman regulated the contribution of scraps to the pot. She understood that no calorie could be wasted. Leftover crusts of rye bread or the stems of garden greens were managed by being added to the simmer. This was the forgotten survival method, where the meal was a continuous process of recycling and enrichment within a single chamber. In 1350, the woman was the architect of the family's metabolic safety. She regulated the fire, the water, and the grain with a focus on persistence. She understood that the one-pot method was the only way to manage the crushing scarcity of the era. She followed the rules of the hearth, preparing the family for the labor of the day with the warmth of the everlasting cauldron. Are you finding the secrets of the medieval pottage fascinating? If this look at the ancient iron cauldron is hitting the spot, wait until you see the preservation tactics in the next part. The second stage of the medieval kitchen involved the management of the perpetual pottage. In 1350, the pot was rarely emptied. Instead, it was replenished. The housewife regulated the balance of the old and the new. She understood that the flavors of yesterday provided the depth for today's meal. She managed the biological safety of the pot through constant simmering. The woman monitored the thickness of the stew as the hours passed. She regulated the density by adding more water or more flour, depending on the number of mouths to feed. She understood that a thick pottage was a meal of the field. while a thin broth was a meal of the nursery. She managed the texture with a clinical focus on the family's energy requirements. The housewife supervised the inclusion of legumes, such as dried peas or beans. She regulated the soaking and cooking time, knowing that these proteins were essential for the children's growth. She understood that the one-pot method allowed the tough outer skins of the beans to soften over many hours. She managed the nutritional density of the meal with a focus on pulses. Managing the salt balance was a technical challenge for the medieval woman. She regulated the use of salt-cured meat, often soaking the pork in a separate bowl before adding it to the pot. She understood that too much salt would make the perpetual pottage inedible over time. She managed the mineral levels of the broth, using it to preserve the meat within the liquid. The woman monitored the seasonal variations of the garden. She regulated the addition of kale, cabbage, or turnips depending on the month. She understood that the one-pot method was a flexible system designed to absorb whatever nature provided. She managed the biodiversity of the meal, ensuring that the family received whatever vitamins were available in the soil. Managing the fat content was a primary concern for the cook. She regulated the rendering of animal fats directly into the pot, knowing that grease was the most efficient fuel for the human body. She understood that a layer of oil on the surface of the broth helped to seal out the air. She managed the caloric budget of the household by ensuring no drop of fat escaped. The housewife supervised the flavor cycle of the cauldron. She regulated the introduction of wild spices, such as mustard seeds or horseradish. She understood that the one-pot method allowed these flavors to meld and mature. She managed the transitions between savory and sweet, sometimes adding dried fruits or honey to provide a rare sensory treat for the youth. Monitoring the fuel economy of the hearth remained a constant task. The woman regulated the type of wood used, preferring hardwoods that provided a steady, low heat. She understood that the one-pot method was designed to minimize the need for a high flame. She managed the inventory of the woodpile, realizing that every log was a unit of survival in the winter. The woman regulated the community pot during village festivals or times of shared labor. She understood that the cauldron could be expanded to feed the neighbors. She managed the logistics of the communal meal, ensuring that everyone contributed a portion of grain or meat. This was a social extension of the one-pot method, building class and village solidarity. As the evening approached, the woman regulated the final check of the pot's integrity. She understood that the pottage had to survive the night in a dormant state. She managed the banking of the fire, ensuring that the iron vessel remained warm until the dawn. She was the guardian of the family's lifeblood, the mistress of the perpetual, life-sustaining cauldron. The third stage of the one-pot history explores the transition from stone to metal. In 1350, the possession of an iron cauldron was a sign of household status. The housewife regulated the use of this high-value asset. She understood that metal was a superior conductor of heat compared to ceramic. She managed the transition to a more industrial style of domestic cooking. The woman monitored the wear and tear of her metal tools. She regulated the cleaning of the cauldron with coarse sand and water, ensuring that no rust developed. She understood that the pot was the most expensive item in the house. She managed the security of the vessel, realizing that its loss would mean the immediate collapse of the family's nutritional system. The housewife supervised the batch processing of seasonal abundance. She regulated the boiling of large quantities of fruit or vegetables to create preserves within the pot. She understood that the one-pot method could be adapted for large-scale storage. She managed the inventory of ceramic jars, filling them with the concentrated results of her cauldron's labor. Managing the liquid exchange between the pot and the family's bowls was a ritual of order. The woman regulated the portions, ensuring that the workers received the thickest part of the stew. She understood that the ladle was a tool of distribution and power. She managed the social hierarchy of the table, using the pottage to reinforce the status of the elders. The woman monitored the smoke flavor of the meal. She regulated the choice of fuel to prevent the pottage from becoming too bitter. She understood that different woods, like oak or apple, imparted different technical notes to the food. She managed the olfactory environment of the longhouse, using the sense of the pot to signal the time of day and the season. Managing the hydration cycle of the youth was a daily duty. The woman regulated the consumption of the broth as a primary source of water. She understood that boiling the water in the pot made it safer to drink than the local well. She managed the health of the children, using the one-pot method as a primitive form of sanitation and disease prevention in 1350. The housewife supervised the repair ritual of the hearth. She regulated the maintenance of the clay walls around the fire, ensuring that the heat was reflected back toward the pot. She understood that the architecture of the fire was as important as the vessel itself. She managed the thermal efficiency of the room, turning the cottage into a high-performance oven. Monitoring the residue buildup on the outside of the cauldron was a task of efficiency. The woman regulated the removal of soot, knowing that a black layer insulated the pot against the heat. She understood that a clean metal surface boiled faster. She managed the labor of the cleaning, realizing that every minute spent on maintenance saved fuel in the long run. The woman regulated the seasonal shift in the pot's contents. She understood that the winter required more fats and grains, while the summer allowed for more green herbs and water. She managed the biological adaptation of her family to the environment. This was a form of domestic engineering, using the one-pot method to synchronize the family with the seasons. As the sun set, the woman regulated the final stir of the day. She understood that the cauldron had reached its peak of flavor. She managed the distribution of the evening meal with a sense of technical achievement. She had managed the resources of the manor and the field, turning them into a single, cohesive unit of survival within her blackened iron fortress. The fourth stage of the one-pot story focuses on the spirit of the hearth. In 1350, the cooking process was inextricably linked to the supernatural. The housewife regulated the blessing of the pot. She understood that the fire was a gift from the divine. She managed the recitation of prayers over the simmering pottage, seeking protection against the rot and poison. The woman monitored the omens found in the steam. She regulated her interpretation of the bubbles and the sounds of the iron, seeking signs of the coming weather or the health of the village. She understood that the cauldron was a site of domestic divination. She managed the psychological atmosphere of the home, using the pot as a focal point for family hope. The housewife supervised the hygiene vigil of the shared bowl. She regulated the use of wooden spoons, ensuring that each family member understood the rules of the table. She understood that the one-pot method required a high level of communal cooperation. She managed the social discipline of the children, using the meal as a lesson in patience and respect. Managing the scent barrier against the dark was a nightly task. The woman regulated the addition of strong-smelling herbs like rosemary or thyme before sleep. She understood that these scents were believed to ward off bad air and malevolent spirits. She managed the olfactory defense of the longhouse, using the pot to create a sanitized spiritual environment. The woman monitored the sleep temperature of the cottage. She regulated the banking of the fire around the cauldron, ensuring that it provided a low, radiant heat throughout the night. She understood that the pot acted as a thermal anchor for the sleeping family. She managed the comfort of the youth, using the iron vessel to stave off the damp of the 1350 winter. Managing the inventory of secrets was a part of the woman's authority. She regulated the knowledge of which wild plants were safe for the pot and which were toxic. She understood that her intelligence was the primary safeguard of the family's life. She managed the transmission of this technical lore to her daughters, ensuring the survival of the next generation. The housewife supervised the fasting cycles of the liturgical year. She regulated the contents of the pot to match the requirements of the church. She understood that fish days and lean days required a different technical approach to the pottage. She managed the spiritual compliance of the household, using the one-pot method to fulfill the soul's duties. Monitoring the noise level of the cauldron provided a rhythmic safety. The woman regulated her chores based on the steady thump of the simmering grains. She understood that a change in the sound signaled a change in the heat. She managed the acoustics of the kitchen, using the pot as a biological clock that dictated the pace of the medieval afternoon. The woman regulated the waste protocol of the house. She understood that anything not fit for the human pot was managed by the animal trough. She managed the interconnected biology of the farm, ensuring that the flow of nutrients remained within the family's control. This was a zero-waste engineering of life, centered entirely on the iron rim of the cauldron. As the fire grew low, the woman regulated the final prayer of the night. She understood that the pot would hold its heat until the dawn. She managed the silence of the room, realizing that her labor was a sacred vigil. She was the keeper of the flame and the pot, the primary engine of the medieval family's persistence in a world of shadow and silent pressure. The final stage of the one-pot method is the long-term management of the domestic record. In 1350, the woman regulated the legacy of her kitchen. She understood that the cauldron would outlive her, being passed down as the most valuable asset of the family. She managed the structural integrity of the iron, ensuring it was a durable vessel for the future. The woman monitored the succession plan of her culinary skills. She regulated the training of the younger women, teaching them the manual dexterity required to manage the trammel hook and the heavy ladle. She understood that her knowledge was a form of capital. She managed the transition of power at the hearth, ensuring the continuation of the survival method. The housewife supervised the final cleaning of the season. She regulated the removal of all residue before the deep winter, ensuring the pot was ready for the heavy stews of the frost. She understood that the cauldron's performance was a matter of life and death during the hungry gap. She managed the preparation of the cellar, aligning it with the pot's needs. Managing the narrative of plenty was the woman's final psychological gift. She regulated the stories told around the simmering cauldron, turning every simple pottage into a celebration of survival. She understood that the one-pot method was more than just cooking. It was a ritual of resilience. She managed the morale of the Stirling-like medieval family name. The woman monitored the external changes of the manor. She regulated her response to the rising prices of salt and grain, adapting the pot's contents to the economic realities of the 14th century. She understood that the one-pot method was the most flexible defense against inflation. She managed the family's wealth by protecting the efficiency of the hearth. Managing the sensory memory of the home was a part of the woman's legacy. She regulated the specific mixtures of herbs that gave her pottage a unique family flavor. She understood that these scents would linger in the minds of her children for decades. She managed the emotional anchor of the household, using the cauldron to create a sense of belonging. The housewife supervised the ritual of closure when the pot was finally moved for a new generation. She regulated the cleaning of the hearthstones, ensuring a sterile and respectful transition. She understood that the architecture of the kitchen was a sacred site. She managed the respect for the history of the meals, realizing that every simmer was a victory. Monitoring the dawn light for the last time, the woman regulated her breath. She understood that she had successfully navigated the forgotten survival method for another year. She managed the final bank of the fire with a sense of technical achievement. She had followed the rules of 1350, maintaining the pottage and the heat with absolute and unwavering grit. The woman regulated the inventory of the day as she looked back on her life at the hearth. She understood that her cauldron was the silent witness to the history of the village. She managed the summary of her status, realizing she was the master of a vanishing but vital world. She sat in the dark, watching the steam, having mastered the art of the iron vigil. The final inventory of the medieval cauldron was complete. The woman managed the summary of her persistence, realizing her one-pot method was a masterpiece of biological survival. She understood that the architecture of the hearth was her true home. She watched the final embers, having lived a life defined by the precision of iron and the weight of the pottage. What do you think was the most difficult part of maintaining a perpetual pottage for a medieval woman? If this dive into the forgotten engineering of the 1350 hearth has intrigued you, drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe so you don't miss our next journey into the hidden lives of the past.